Really?
Went out there, the coroner, he had surprised. And it's like, great, what do you do with this art now?
Oh, yeah.
Because you only can't take those off.
Yes, but the county after the auction. Right now, counties just pass their ordinance.
Not the main one.
All the counties that are 35 miles. And there's like over 400 or 500 miles. And Cashmere just passed their ordinance. So now you can ride from Cashmere Fairgrounds. All the way up to Leavenworth, from Leavenworth, here in County, when I'm proposing a route,
You spent the night here.
or route.
I had to leave.
Why?
They picked up all my bedding.
Mr. Betty, what, you eat in bed?
Hi, Steve.
So,
And never,
Yeah.
well, the citizens decided that if we want to look at the route, then she
wait
can
so
approach
many years and you
county
had to do this,
council
this,
and their road. And
this.
that way,
Hasn't changed.
and that's really a base road for the population. On the size of the
Yeah.
and then, about a pilot project that will take us down the farm. Another one open the road from startups
Was he the one that, the second one that did
and kind of get out as much as I could. Homeland Security to relax some of their protection on the dams there and allow public travel across the dam.
It's not
So
bad.
if that comes about, then me and our group will open with 5,000. And so you would have a route that would take you on down across the area.
Well, I can, Janet contacted me all the time. She always has, even when I'm on, I don't know why.
But anyway, what we want is, we want a route on roads low elevation, and then build a public elevation.
Yeah.
I did route to support from Stony Brook. And allow the cases.
Well, we have a relationship with all the Oh, yeah.
It's supposed to be
But this one happened.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
actually.
You know, he used to work full-time for the city,
Is, given
volunteer,
consideration.
volunteer every day.
It's on State
Because
Street.
either the summer of 2016 or the summer of 2017, we're
I had,
gonna fix the next one.
Yeah.
So we would be
Okay, well, I'll tell you
tied
about
to
it.
that.
Oh,
So I'm working with the National Forest
Yes, they do.
to get geared up.
Oh my gosh. He was up at Gold Run Nature Trails and worked and he retired. And then right after that, he bought that house. So it's a lot of years. I mean, it's a lot of 10 years. Been around here a
Well,
while.
actually, I got pads
Pardon?
from Canada.
Where's she from? But I got it.
And ground around and down in the southwest.
I've always been sort of friends.
There's another
His wife was very active in the community. But, they changed late here and Whistler and home, coming to go visit. And one day, you know, I just kept.
No.
Yeah, and I,
He had seen the city closed.
I live close to you. I don't think I have a choice.
I found it out.
Last thing for her. And when
they
she passed away, so she called me.
The far side from me.
His wife.
Yeah, she was very
Well, she was polarizing.
She wasn't thinking about polarization.
I was really glad with our relationship because I feel she would have been a
Well, it's just, you know, at the time, I was a city councilor,
oh dear.
and I couldn't say. She wasn't challenging me.
Well, and I'm sorry. She didn't bug me, but I wasn't directly across from the socialization area.
it's been so long.
And she could have. She'd been mean to me, but she certainly
Did you bring a team with you?
I'm just
Okay.
glad that she wasn't angry with me.
I just think it was interesting. It took 3 days.
You know, I have a feeling, you know, she said she was paying rent.
Well, you know, the guy who owns those houses now is,
I know. Didn't that house look so not, well, okay, so I think they foreclosed on the house.
they had a habit predators.
And I wonder if the renters know that. Oh, good. Because I feel bad for them.
they came over.
I've heard so much that it's bothering me because.
And
Oh,
I
they
ran
were-
into the guy who lives in the cul-de-sac.
Yeah,
There was a-
there are 3, I think. There's the one,
Yeah.
Well, you know what the guy did?
They have no experience, they don't, and, Rose and I went in there, and, she
He was fully level. His loans were and so when the housing.
She's a beautiful little thing, wasn't she? Beautiful.
Well, that's something that's gonna happen. It's the first time.
well, they've had a parade of
Catch on.
Well, I used to be a renter.
On this side.
I'm ready to be a renter again. When we sell our house, we
You mean out back? Are you staying here? Are you staying in the city?
I don't know.
It's, I mean, I'm out here because I couldn't, I didn't need to commute anywhere, and I couldn't live with the cost of
Oh,
housing.
yeah. Well, see, that's the problem. I looked at cruddy little randos, like public areas. I mean, they're cruddy little buildings.
I live on Second and Wall Street. in downtown Seattle in a studio apartment, and I got tired of cooking dinner in my bedroom.
Spice or something?
Well, no, it's,
And
sort of.
I looked for places to buy in
Down
town
home.
where there was some character, and it was just,
It's not
like,
like what
I
you
could
do
do it,
in
but it
these
didn't make sense.
Okay.
Obviously, that was before they
So I was, you know, when we bought our house, I thought we paid way too
Well,
much.
good, well, good.
Yeah, the Miriam Jackson.
But anyway,
I hardly ever eat these.
we're not on the water. Well, this is extremely tender.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes my wife just planted,
It isn't that, it's that.
and it takes 5 years to take, well, she's doing.
Oh,
So when they had to.
But there's fruit trees on that side.
The trees that are still standing are apple trees,
Came back from work
and
last
there's
year?
2 plum trees.
Well, she looks like she.
I look at everybody's plants and pets, and I forget who.
But you see that we had nut trees, but they got some kind of a disease,
Hey,
and they
I got
died.
one.
well, when you can tell us about it.
So we, you know, they were just great.
Are you guys gonna actually do the wine?
She wants to, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that means, you know what, that means everybody will hate us at Christmas because you're getting another bottle of bad wine.
Whoops. That wine will be fine.
Hey, pull on over a chair.
Did I take your seat again?
You did not.
Are you sure?
If you can talk.
I was gonna say, you look too polite to tell me if I took your chair.
Are you,
ETV ordinance is adopted in its present form. ETVs can run any city street at any time. I just asked if,
No, we got golf.
and included Croft Avenue. She said, yeah.
It's all private up there too.
oh no, you know what, the whole idea
Yeah, but people were,
not to
they were
have,
just playing.
not to have our neighbors fight over it. The whole idea is for hundreds.
Please turn off your personal devices during the meeting. I now call to order the Gold Bar Council meeting of May 20th, 2014. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record show that all council members are present. We have one slight change to the agenda. There needs to be amended. Okay, I call for a motion to accept tonight or accept the agenda as it is.
I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda as written from Tuesday, May 20th.
Can I get a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We had a loss this afternoon for anybody that knew him. Bert McClelland passed away. He was the fire commissioner and a council member back in the 80s for Gobar. He was, yeah, he will be missed.
Who missed by you?
We have, Lisa, do you have anything?
I do. At the last council meeting, the agenda listed the checks as, well, let me back up. The April 15th minutes listed the checks as going up to 20986. When I was doing the minutes for the May 6th meeting, I noticed the agenda had them starting at 20988. So I started looking for 20987 and found out that the agenda had been amended the earlier version of the agenda had the correct number, start with the check starting at 20987, but when the agenda was amended, that number was changed. So the minutes actually reflect the wrong number sequence of checks, so when we get down to the minutes on the agenda, we'll wanna amend the minutes for that. The finance committee did review check 20987, that was a check that went out, so it was just a mistake on the agenda. I wanted to point that out in case you guys see a change in numbering in the minutes. And that's the only thing I have.
Lee, do you have anything to comment on anything?
No, not at this time.
Bob?
Yeah, I heard the complaint that sometimes people can't hear us so well. And at one time we had microphones and I don't know what happened, and it broke. So I was wondering what the feasibility is of getting microphones back.
Yeah, I heard about that from last time, and we're going to check into how they broke and get it fixed so that we can start using it again. So that everybody can hear us.
That's all?
Tom? Katie?
It's springtime, and I just want to say that we have had, if anybody hasn't noticed, we've had a marvelous turnout of volunteers helping in the community with yard work and mowing, and I just wanted to tell all the volunteers that they really appreciate it.
Ben?
Yeah, I'm told I'm a little premature with this, but I think the timing is appropriate. And I don't yet, some of you may know more about what I do than I do, but I don't yet have a formal offer for change of employment. But I did go through an interview process, and I'm anticipating an offer this week. I'm anticipating a move to California on the 11th of July. So I'm anticipating remaining on the council through the end of June, and then resigning. But I think because my workload shift, I'm going to back away from being on the finance committee from this point forward. I'm going to ask someone else to pick that up. I missed yesterday. I came in today, did my responsibilities, but I had some extra workload yesterday that hampered my ability to get here. So I'm going to ask that I be removed from the finance committee. I can still remain as a consultant. I can still do the review, but I don't want to be the primary because I may not be able to make it. But and you can consider my resignation effective on the last day of June.
We're gonna miss you here.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
Wish you much luck in California.
What's that?
And then wish
Oh,
you
yes,
much
yes.
luck in
Oh,
California.
where in California?
Seal Beach.
Oh.
Do you need a fire shelter? I can get you a fire shelter.
I'm fine. I'm not swinging.
Seal Beach.
My wife will remain here. We'll maintain our residence here for the most part. I'll have to transfer mine for my residence because I'm employed there, but I'll be returning on occasion. My wife's going to stay here. So we'll see you again.
Do any citizens have comments that they wish to make right now? Okay, we have no old business. New business is action on the animal ordinance of 658. For action?
So I make a motion that we accept ordinance 658, animals for action and approval.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Does anyone wish to discuss this matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. We have ordinance 662 for action as well. These were merely changes from clerk treasurer to city, that has been read previously. Can I get a motion for ordinance 662, environment?
I'll move that we approve ordinance 662, the environment.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Does anyone wish to discuss this matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Ordinance 663. For second reading of subdivisions. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we accept ordinance number 663 for a second reading.
I'll second. Does anyone wish to discuss this matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Ordinance 664, motorized recreational vehicle use on public streets, second reading. I want to put forward, is there a motion or?
Before the motion.
I would like to table it for now. 1 to 2 readings, because I need approval from the council that if we send out the survey, which we have before you, of course, the May 15th would be changed to reflect the newer date. But to send out the survey is going to cost us $600. We have a couple other options that we can do, and that's, we can have a public hearing. If we get volunteers to go door to door, we can do that as well, but I have not heard of volunteers on both sides. So I don't think that's going to be a good option. But with council, yes.
I just have a question. If we're going to have volunteers go door to door, could the volunteers going door to door give the folks the survey?
That's what they were.
So basically, that would be hand delivering the survey?
But we didn't receive that, so we know we can't do it that way. We did have an offer, or a suggestion that we can send it out and put in a postcard for the answers and have the postcard returned, which would be about $140 less. So it would be $460 rather than $600.
So the 600 is for mostly the postage?
No,
One citizen, excuse me, one citizen suggested, why can't we just sit in the little lobby area of our family market and hand out flyers there, or the poll? And they would volunteer, they said.
Right, we need from both sides, so it's even, and I did not receive from both sides volunteers to do that. So it became not an option at that point in time. The other one is having a public hearing, just having them come. Another one is to have them come in City Hall for the next couple which one, yes or no, is another option.
Well, it's kinda like the Wilbur Family Market would do something like that.
Yeah, that would seem pretty bipartisan. I don't think you need both sides to sit there. People would fill them out, like the Grand
Would
Board
you fill
Broad.
this out later, yeah?
I would hesitate to do that. And the reason is because I think you will get a poor sampling from the Gold City Market. I think you get a poor sampling from the town hall meeting.
Yeah.
And I'm a little hesitant on the oral presentation of a survey as well, because well, first of all, you're presenting it in a sort of a confrontational way, and so you're biasing the response you're going to get, and also at the same time, you're relying upon some parties. I actually prefer the paper because it's a firm vote, and even though there's a cost associated with it, you're getting a full sample. Those who wish to respond may, those who choose not to don't have to, but you have a hard count.
I agree with, I think that's the most, best way to contact the most people, the residents of Goldwater, would be this paper, to mail it out, even though there is a cost to it. It's $600, I understand. And I still don't understand exactly what, the $600, would that be for the postage out?
It's
It
for,
wouldn't be a
we're
self-stamp.
approximately 700 houses, so we have to send out 700 mailers, and in order to make it as fair as possible, you send self-addressed envelopes to send them back.
And
So they have,
self-stamped.
yeah,
The
I think
postcard
that's
is
the
also
best way to go.
satisfactory though.
postcard would be satisfactory. We would probably use what we use for the water billing, and print it out on those, and some would be.
Those can be pre-stamped, right? They don't have to be,
Pre-stamped.
they can be pre-stamped. And then,
Well, I agree, the sampling at any place, public meeting or the Goldbar Family Market is definitely limited. Only those you talk to, of course. I was just looking for a cheap alternative, that's all.
But the fair is,
But if it costs us, it costs us. It's certainly an issue that the citizens are concerned
Do
about.
we need a motion to table that, and have a motion for this?
can I get a motion to table ordinance 664? For 1 to 2 meetings,
I'll make said motion.
saying. Can I get a second? Does anyone wish to discuss this matter?
Hope we get a chance to talk before we voted on that motion. Steve Bush, 443 Evergreen Place, Full. At the last council meeting, I was sort of compelled by the idea of doing a survey. But the more I think about it, I'm not sure what a survey is going to accomplish except spending city money. If you ask for mailings coming back, you're probably going to, I would be surprised if you get 10% of them back. They're just not going to respond. And I think you're going to find that the people, both the pro and con, who are interested in this, enough that they might respond, will probably be attending meetings. And that, you see if that's not going to happen either. So I would suggest that the council do their job they was elected to do and legislate, and not operate on polls and surveys. You got a piece of legislation or an ordinance in front of you. I think it's a well-written ordinance. I have looked at the state law, the bill, and it complies completely with the state's requirements. And I would offer a challenge to any councilman to, maybe you can take a survey of the people that are here right now to see how many people have actually read, not just the ordinance, but the state law. Because if you read just the ordinance, you still don't know what the ordinance is based on. And I think that we're getting a lot of negativism because of lack of understanding. And I also think that I would suggest that we go through with the second reading as scheduled, vote on it, go on to the next phase. But the council's always got the option of a few weeks, a few months, probably a few months down the road to re-examine if there are problems. But I would be happy to talk to anybody about the problems they think this is going to create, because I just don't see it. So, that's all I have for right now.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
I was willing to stay silent tonight because I like the direction you were going. I think one thing, and I don't mean to say this and attack anyone in a personal manner, but each and every one of you were elected running against Joe Apathy. And I think that gives you guys a mandate to keep the power on in City Hall and pay the bills. But I think when it comes time to changing the culture of the traffic in this city and the culture of the traffic in our immediate vicinity, I think it's time to really stop and think this through. I read the law, I read the ordinance, and really it comes right down to how many ORVs do you want on your streets, on our streets. We're already hostages of US 2 on the weekends. We have control over our city streets. And I think we should maintain control over our city streets for our residents to the degree we can, rather than surrender them to more out of city people. It's a shame Chief Casey isn't here right now, but right now, Chief Casey can't keep up with the traffic on May Creek Road. And I don't fault him for that. I fault the taxpayers for not hiring more motorcycle cops. But even then, there's challenges we have in the city with traffic that we can accomplish, that we can overcome with engineering controls before we start adding new dimensions of problems. We already have fireworks laws that aren't being enforced. And I see the vigilante aspect of this law as being real problematic. Twice in the past 6 months, I've called road rage incidents into 911. And their first question to me is, what's a license plate number? Well, it's like, hell, I don't know. These guys just drove by me 50 miles an hour, flipping me off. They're playing dueling cars out on 124th. I'm not gonna be writing down license plate numbers. I can't see the license plate numbers on the car that speeds by my house. Am I gonna sit out there with binoculars, or am I just gonna give up my front yard? Chuck Lee, 39964 Main Creek Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further that wish to speak up on this?
Nicole Joannis, 1804 Amanda Avenue. I think that it's a good idea to bring in new people to our town, bring in business for the small businesses, other people coming through. We have tons of foreclosures. There's a lot of small businesses that have gone out of business. It's becoming a ghost town pretty much. And I think bringing in new faces, coming through, seeing what we have to offer, seeing our parades, getting parades together with everything, I think that would be a really good idea. Bringing in people to this small town, to see what we have to offer. I mean, if it gets out of control, there's laws, people can get tickets, I think it's a good idea to bring people into our small town. So, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further?
I would like to make a comment on this. Stand make it here. I don't have there. Okay, well, I didn't have a mic there, so. just wanted to comment that, I was sitting in the attorney's office down in Olympia when this law was drafted. And there was a lot of vetting, both Linda and I were there, with the environmental community, with Washington State Patrol, and what is reflected in what you're referring to as 1632 has now gone on to be codified in RCW 46.09. And becomes a little more clear as to the intent and the inner workings of the bill when you read it after it's codified. But the key thing that both the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the Governor's Office, and bear in mind, we have the nation's strongest environmental governor that I'm aware of, anyway. The key component that all three branches were looking for was local control. And that is what this bill has provided through the ordinance process. The ordinance process to each city, all 281 of them have the option of opting in. And also each county with the exception of 6, because their population thresholds are below 15,000. But they do have the option to opt out certain roads or opt out altogether. They were just automatically opened because of their threshold. So, with regards to control, you will always have the control, whether you move to adopt or you choose not to adopt. The choice is yours. And truly, it is a local matter, and that's why, other than being informational, that is why I pretty much stayed out of it, other than answering questions that some of the citizens have had. Because it's a local decision. This is your house, this is your family, and I hope you appreciate my respect of your family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further? All in favor of the motion which was tabling this for 1 to 2 meetings?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The motion is carried to table it for 1 to 2 meetings. As to the survey, do I have approval to go forward with the survey, or does anybody else have a suggestion?
I'll make a motion that council approve the money for the survey.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
I think I'm abstaining because I'd like to look further into the option of the, instead of doing the whole return envelope thing, do the postcard
I was planning
as
on.
a viable. Oh, so was that
I'm going
part
to
of
try
the?
it, yes.
Okay, then can I change my vote? Okay, then I vote.
Motion is carried.
So I would like to comment to the comment that Steve made with regard to, I think we as a council do have responsibility to, we have been elected. We have the responsibility to make decisions that affect the city. I also admire what Chuck said, that there's a time when we need to weigh, especially when it comes to cultural policies and things that are going to change the culture of the community. I think we owe it to the citizens to allow them to have a voice. So I'm very much in favor of the survey, but if it had come to a vote, I'm ready and willing to vote at the same time. I want to make that comment as well. But I'm happy with what we've done, and so I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Any other council comments?
I agree with Ken. I think it's really going to be interesting and informative to hear what the citizens have to say, and I hope they do make some comments. It'd be nice to have some real feedback rather than just yes and no.
Well, I think that there's a big picture on this, is the reason that we really need the time to look into this, to see what the side effects are gonna be, if there are any. And it gives council enough time to digest this thing, consider it more closely, and I think we can all give it a better vote 2 or 3 meetings from now.
Any further council comments? I'd like to make a council comment. That's okay, Mr. Council? On this particular thing, I've heard both sides when they want to, for us to do our job. This, as Chuck has said, will change the culture of Gold Bar. It has to be considered. And we have to know from the citizens if they're going to accept this culture change. So it is better to find out from the most citizens that we possibly can, so that everybody knows and everybody can make their own comments. This is the reason why this particular one has to go out to the citizens. The citizens have to know. Thank you.
Yeah, if the citizens show apathy with response to the survey, they're simply deferring to the council to make the decision.
Exactly.
But it would be nice to get that.
Absolutely, that's the reason we opted for that.
Okay, we're, need to go on to minute approval,
We have
or,
another.
We have another.
And I think Ralph wanted
we
to.
already did final council, we did 663, we did 664.
Are you talking about?
I'm sorry? Are you making,
About the survey of the citizens, Ralph Wood, 309 First Avenue West. I've read this ordinance, and it's all that stuff about how you have to do license requirements for the vehicle. Well, if they're not aware of all that, they'll just may just think of them as the wild bunch coming through. Somehow, when we're asking the citizens to approve it or not, they need to be informed of all the constraints and limitations that accompany that. Maybe too many pages to mail, but without that, I think we skewed against it.
May 6th minute approval?
This was the minutes that need to be amended.
Yes,
Yes.
so you'll want to amend the minutes for the, numbering of the warrants at the end.
Okay.
To start with number 20957, or 20987, excuse me, rather than 20988.
20987 through,
Whatever the last number is on the minutes, I didn't write that down.
21014.
okay, so I'll make a motion that we amend the minutes to change the voucher numbers to 2087 through
20987
20987 through
through
21014.
21014.
Got it.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. We have voucher approvals. Can I get a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve for payment the vouchers 21015 through 21040 for a grand total of $17,979.26, of which claims are $6,768.23, and payroll is $11,211.03.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion is carried. If I can have final citizen comment?
I'd like to follow up on what was said just a few minutes ago about the nature of the survey, the questionnaire that comes out. Because I have talked to several people that I know, and been going out doing the survey, but I've talked to friends of mine. And their first impression is no. I ask them why. And they say, I don't want to see those little poor little jobs running up and down the street doing wheelies and run across my yard. And that's the impression that people have is off the top. And that is not what the ordinance says, that's not what the state law says, and that is not what will happen. If it happens, the city will probably make money on fines. But somehow, if you fill out a blank, or an open question, the first response is no. Because they don't understand it, they haven't read it, they do not understand it. And like I say, if the people really understood what people, even in here that are opposed to it, I doubt that they fully understand what it means. It's not gonna mean people running up and down their street. It's not gonna be everybody that's got four-wheelers that live in Sultan or Skycomas, oh, we go ride in Gold Bar. That's not what's gonna happen. The people in Gold Bar who have them will have access to the county roads when the county roads are open, and they will not be open unless Gold Bar opens up access to those county roads. And you can go around and find out how many people have ATVs or WATVs in the city that might be riding them out of the city limits, and it's a handful. I realize I'm in a minority, but I just think that there's a false impression, and I'm concerned about the survey, the response you get from the survey not really giving you an adequate picture.
I just want to continue in an informative fashion. What is not in 1632 is what's already in statutory law. And it is part of my legislative agenda this session to have Department Licensing directed to put on the back of the renewal registration forms a notification that A, if you're caught leaving the road and tearing up private property or public lands, it's a $3,000 fine. 2, you can be held accountable up to 3 times the cost of restoration for that. And you could also be held liable for the actions of somebody else that uses your machine and creates the grass ripping up or the pristine meadow that you've been privileged to have a road to go access for a lunch or pictures or fishing. My dream. So please keep that in mind. It's a pretty serious thing. I mean, Linda's aware of it. So it's not to be taken lightly. And furthermore, if the county decides to move forward on an ordinance, the members of Gold Bar, 1,200 families, would be more than happy occasionally to come down and get a pizza or get groceries or fuel and help continuing to stimulate your local economy. And in time with some trail developments, we might be able to connect down to Startup and get ourselves up around to Spada Lake and have a nice, pleasant ride. Once again, the bill's demographic is focused towards mature, aging baby boomer
our wounded warriors, and our 360,088 folks registered in the state of Washington. So this is really an extension of their limbs as they begin to get older. And the baby boomer generation is the country's largest demographic. So I'm kind of planning ahead in some of my statewide ambitions to help accommodate that culture coming to us and be able to give them the opportunity to go down, get that wind in their face, be able to smell the morning pine in the afternoon pine after it's had a chance to heat up. And the gentle breeze at night that comes across the Alpine Meadows. I enjoy those things. And people don't get that chance when you're sitting in an SUV. That's just not part of the experience unless you're hiking or riding a bicycle for that. You get the wind in the face.
Okay, well, just like Tracy got to speak twice, Ted speaks twice, so do I. And I just want to emphasize again, what Ted brought up is local control. And I really think we should just close these meetings to people from outside of the city of Galena, so that we can just discuss it amongst ourselves. Because it is local control, and it is our local traffic and culture. And some of us will be impacted more than others, but at the same time, you'll be impacted every time you drive out. I drive Ryder Road, and to tell you the truth, I may just quit driving Ryder Road if they start driving ORVs on it, because I have concerns. And I think it's interesting that there's such stupendous fines. And that's because there's such a risk. But before the fines, why do we even have to have something that has stupendous fines? I think that we have plenty of recreational opportunities out here, and plenty of traffic as it is. Thanks.
Tracy Cotterill, 301 Grand. I don't think that because I haven't read the whole thing that I'm ignorant to it. I do know that most of our houses sit close enough to the roads that we're not even gonna be able to get away from the noise in our home. And I don't believe for 2 seconds that everyone riding the streets is going to head for the pit. Not for a second do I believe that. And I appreciate you taking the time to look at this a little closer and give people a chance to have a say. Thank you.
Is there any further citizen comments? Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting? All in favor?
When is your goal?
It's always right after.
They're coming.
Good job.
Yes.
You know, all the other stuff, it's just interesting. It's like candy, all things are good ways.
Let me ask you this. So WATV, they have that's not, we're not gonna have any of these.
No, they wanted red one.
They can't, the 2-year-olds can't go. You know what, the cops, you know, the police. So, okay, so you've got the license plate, you have a description, it was red, it has. And it's an hour later response.
Selfish, I'm worried about firefights on my lawn from 2 a.m. and how am I gonna
be able to report.
He's so rotating.
I mean, this ordinance isn't for those right now, until the county, frees up a ton of roads, we aren't gonna have that kind of.
The county take some of those. That's why I sent an email. And I'll forward you the email. They're just sitting on their head. And you see, they see this as a big money for the city of Monroe.
No, I understand, I understand.
We need to go do
You're really gonna know if it's tax rate, if you have something in let's go duke it out.
I'll send you those emails, Dave's a very important.
And I need to learn how to navigate a city council, because I feel bad repeating what someone else is saying.
Otherwise, it's already. It's like kids, if you don't say anything, they're gonna assume whatever we decide. Excuse me, I've got a camera
I
running.
understand.
Oh, you've taken over that.
I hope I recorded this.
Excuse me.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Well, also, how many more people?
They've contributed a little bit. All sent out and 5 pages of ordinance. All that stuff about the license.